Welcome in to episode 3 of our Let's Play Ara History Untold learning series, where we're discovering the game. I'm sharing any tips and tricks that I've picked up over my course of playing and streaming and collecting comments from people and asking people about the game and watching YouTube videos and creating my own and all of those things. Also, please feel free to share all of your thoughts in the comments. I'm interested in learning what y'all are doing too, and so that helps in the 4X genre. I mean, just helps grow the game and grow the strategies around the game. Very much enjoying Ara History Untold. We're going to jump into our early game still. We're on turn 18, so we'll see how we can progress the game. We have to pick a Paragon to start our episode this time. If you missed any of the opening episodes, down in the description below, there is a link to episode 1 of the series. You can catch up on everything we have gone over, including kind of early builds, strategies, and we'll continue to kind of walk through that as we get into episode 3 today. Let's jump in to the action in Ara History Untold. Here we are in our capital city of Ciudad de Mexico, the city of Mexico, Mexico City. And we are moving right along. We actually have settlers coming out in 5 turns. We made the decision to go settlers during the last episode. And so the reason, of course, that we did that is because we found some lovely land right over here. We need to explore how many zones are in this land before we decide where to place a city. But we're looking at like these 4 probably here, maybe even this one. Any of those, if they have the right number of zones, could be an excellent second city settle for us. We've got a little river over here that creates kind of a nice border for us. That mostly just for aesthetic purposes, right? And we have our scouts going to go grab this and then head up north. We're going to keep busting fog in that direction. We haven't met any neighbors yet. We have one tribe. We're in a positive relationship with them. We have not had any events in relation to that tribe yet. We're just, so far, just have a natural positive relationship with them. Mostly due to the fact that we are playing Benito Juarez, who has a natural inclination for that. And we are aware now that we sit on the end of what appears to be possibly a little peninsula. We've got a bay here, and we have to find out what happens over here still. This is kind of the big question mark from an exploration standpoint. Obviously, what's north of us is big, right? But from our capital city standpoint and our initial empire, if this just kind of stops right here and we just have full access to this with no contested people, and we don't have to worry about being attacked from that side until, naval stuff starts to happen, that would be optimal. We also have some buffalo over here, which are, obviously we're a little bit resource scarce in our capital, which is why this area is so tempting to go very quickly to, which is why we're going settler very early. And we left off where we needed to grab a Paragon. And so let's talk about the Paragon system. The Paragon system, essentially, and please comment if you know the specifics of this, but the way that I understand it, the Paragon system operates on a % chance to get a Paragon on population growth. So population growth is the primary driver of whether you will get Paragons or not. And then there is some sort of % chance involved, a little RNG, as far as when Paragons actually proc and how frequently they proc. I say that because there are certain traits, there are certain I think buildings or other things that you could do that will actually enhance your ability to get Paragons. They will change that % chance. You can increase that % chance towards getting Paragons. That is how I understand the Paragon system to currently work. But again, if you know more details about that, please feel free to comment on it. But I think that the primary driver essentially is there's a % chance on population growth that you will have the ability to choose a Paragon. Every time you get to choose a Paragon, you are presented with 3 options. So this is, again, a little bit of RNG. It is 3 random Paragons that you will choose from. And there are a bunch of different things that Paragons can do for you. And so this is a pretty major function and a major system within Ara History Untold. So you can see that each of these particular Paragons have a role. This is a scientist. Thag is an engineer. Nessie is a pioneer, right? So we have different kind of persons from history that will spawn in that you can choose to be your Paragons. Paragons can be put into several different slots. The closest thing I can equate this to is maybe like the governor system from Civilization 6, but it's a very different take on that. But that's probably the closest thing that I would equate it to. So you have a lot of slots that you can assign paragons into. You can put them into the chief advisor position that you have. You can put them into a domestic advisor position that you have. You can put them into the foreign advisor position that you have. They can also create masterpieces for you or assist in the creation of masterpieces, and they can be assigned into your forces essentially as generals. So it also functions as kind of like the general piece of the puzzle as well. So there's a governor slash great person, right? Like that's kind of what the play is here. You can use them as kind of more like a governor type of person. You could use them as more of a great person kind of like, right? You could create masterpieces with them or have them be like a general for you. So it's a combination of those things really with the paragons here. The key is that your paragon can only be assigned to one slot. Now you can move your paragons around into different slots, which actually is pretty important over the course of a game. We'll talk about that, especially with the choice that we are going to make. And then you can get more than one paragon, right? So as you get more paragons, you can slot them into different places and then move them around as you need to. There are some very interesting ones here that we may need to choose between, and so we'll talk about kind of what those look like. So I look mainly at the chief advisor first. The chief advisor like slot is usually pretty valuable, and so that's typically where I'll look to start. But as a scientist, you can see that as a domestic advisor, +5 research per turn, actually a pretty substantial amount of research. If we back out, we're making 6 research per turn currently. So the ability to choose a paragon that adds 5 research per turn as a base nearly doubles our research output, which is a pretty substantial research boost, right? Could be a very good choice. As chief advisor, you get +2 science per turn with science improvements, so you could actually stack that to be higher than the 5, right, if you wanted to. If you have research agreements, which are a little bit tricky to get because you have to have very positive relationships with your allies, you can slot them here, and then a 5% experience boost when you defeat enemy forces in your army, right? So again, options potentially. The domestic advisor being probably the most immediate one that's nice here. For Thag, +10 production in all cities. This +10 build production is pretty substantial. That means all the buildings, the projects you are working on in your cities would have a +10% build production. That's not bad. 10% at this rate is, again, like we're talking about, there's small numbers, and so it's not huge, but 10% is nice, right? That's still a 10% reduction in the time you're spending on building things, which is pretty good. You also get +10% to build production to triumph improvements, specifically in your capital. Probably not as good as the just 10% build production overall, at least right now. And then as a military advisor, you can get so these don't have the ability to military advisor, or this one didn't have the military advisor piece, right? So as the military advisor, you get +10 build production towards military improvements, and on force, you get +100% siege damage and pillage damage, which is pretty nice, right? So you can see maybe an engineer applied to a force is possibly better than a scientist applied to a force, right? And those types of things. Nessie, the chief advisor, +5% growth per turn in each city below population tier 5. All of our cities currently are below population tier 5. Growth, in my opinion, is king in most 4X games. You might be able to tell where we're going with this and why it's important to be able to move your paragons around. Right now, this, as the chief advisor position, this +5% growth per turn, pretty nice. We probably want this, but as soon as most of our cities are above tier 5, we really don't need that 5% growth anymore. The 5% growth is hugely valuable in my opinion because it is actually, there are very few things in the game that impact your city growth per turn. And so you really do want to have as many of those as possible to be able to optimize your city growth, which fuels just about everything in your empire, right? So I really like this at least opening. Eventually you'll want to move away from this, probably into like masterpiece. Like none of the rest of this stuff is particularly important, although domestic advisor, the +1 speed to scouts and settlers can obviously get your your scouting done faster, and B, can get your cities out faster, which is really nice. So if you have that extra speed to your settlers to be able to move 2 territories per turn, as you can imagine, that's pretty substantial, and you can get your settlers out pretty quickly. So it's not actually, this one, the +1 speed and strength on scouts and settlers is not a bad trait to consider as you're going for that. But we're going to take Nessie and we're going to take that 5% growth. And so once you've
Macy,
selected
Egyptian
which one you want,
official and presumed leader of an expedition to Punit.
there we go. Once you've picked the leader, the paragon that you want, you then have to assign them, right? So we can assign them into any of these spots: force bonus, masterpiece bonus, military advisor, domestic advisor, or chief advisor. And so we are going to go chief advisors. We assign into that slot. Again, you can reassign. It does take turns to do that. I believe you can unassign at any time, and then reassign takes a turn or something like that. I haven't messed with that too much, but it does take turns to move people around, which is good. You don't want to be able to move them around like easily. So I think I think it takes a turn to unassign and a turn to reassign. So my thought is you probably miss a turn with a paragon in order to make a switch. But that's important because otherwise you could just bounce back and forth between a couple different things, right? That brings us to our next turn because we were all set up and ready to go. So let us move into turn 19 of the game. We have a new cache discovered, which is nice. Although, wow, multiple caches in this direction. I was not going to go this way. I was going to go up, but now it appears I am tempted to go this way. And look at the land here now. We have tobacco. We have more goats. We have more cows. We have more grapes. Oh my gosh, this land is valuable out here. I really like the idea that we're going to be settling out in this direction as quickly as possible. There may be even a third city over here, depending on what we find up in this region, and we can start to see a mountain peak peeking through the clouds. I absolutely love this. Even little features like this, where in the fog, we can see our scout has seen that there is a mountain peak in the distance, right? This is like true to form for most 4X strategy games. When there are hills in the distance or something, you can see them faster than you might otherwise be able to see things. But the mountains in this game and their ability to like be seen from this far away when we can see nothing else, I mean, it's just so cool. But you can see our land is starting to look very nice over here. Whether this will be contested land is something that we have yet to find out. We did drop the number of nations on the map down by a couple just to free up some space for learning and not being pressed right away. So we may have some extra space here, but we're starting to explore quite a ways. And so I think there's this possibility, right, that we may end up running into this being maybe contested. But I think we'll get the second city out, and by that time, we'll kind of have a better idea. So again, really nice looking land here. We have 3 caches to collect actually now. So that's what this scout will be doing essentially for the next few turns, is moving around and just collecting caches as we go. That's obviously my primary objective with my scout, is always find caches, collect caches. I've got my spearman obviously right as my other unit that we've created. Spearman is out here doing hunts, but the spearman was also effective in getting a little bit more exploration done, right? Now, we would have probably needed a scout, another scout much earlier, had our spearmen not discovered that this was a peninsula, right? If we had discovered that there were some caches down here and that this land went down further here, or we have a lot more to explore, another scout would be very pertinent, because obviously this guy's not coming back anytime soon, as you can see. And so we would have needed another scout to start doing some exploration. I think that 2 scouts, based on map placement, 2 scouts is probably something that you want early game in most games of Ara. I think we're in a really nice situation here based on the way I like to play, which is I only need 1 scout right now. We're doing just fine with the 1 scout being out there. Could we be exploring faster and clearing this as well? Absolutely. Would that result in more caches? Probably. My hope is that we get our capital city up and running a little faster than everybody else, and that's the advantage that we take, right? So we'll see how that goes as we go along. And you'll notice that was the turn. That was it. We're good to go. We are set, and we press the next turn button. Again, faster turns typically. Lots of things happening on this turn. Jewelry has been crafted. We have a cache collected and a plow in the cache. Hugely valuable for our empire, because we actually, I believe, do we have a plow? We rushed this plow out, right? Yeah, so we already have a plow in our current farm. But when we go into our next farm, we will have a plow already. We don't have to craft one, which is actually pretty substantial. So we'll send our scout, go get this cache and then this one. That will be what we do, but that was a very valuable cache. Furs and food from our clearance. Only 5 health lost, so not bad at all. And now we've cleared out the predators in this particular region. We're going to go hunt this wolf next, because that will show us what's over here. And this will be our next kind of really important exploration discovery. So let's go here first, because that will clear actually this fog, I believe, because you get adjacent territory visibility. And then when we jump down here, we'll start to clear all of this. And then the spearman's job is just continue to clear all of the predators and do all of the hunts, right? Mostly I'm going to have this spearman focus on just the wolf hunts for now. We're going to leave the other more dangerous hunts, or the hunts that require 2 or more, like tigers require 3 hunts, that's 3 turns worth of hunting, at a danger level 5. It takes, usually you have to have like a spearman that hunts, goes back and heals, and hunts again on a tiger. But the wolves are only danger level 2, and they only require 1 hunt. Now, the value of the hunts, I think, go up. You get better when you finish the hunt. You get better resources and food and stuff from them. But we want to just get these quick hunts done, get all the wolves cleared, collect all of the stuff that we get from that, including the food bonuses, because as we get more food, we can actually get more settlers out. And we want to get our settlers out relatively quickly. Part of the reason we want to get settlers out quickly is because we do have this independent trait, +1 housing in non-capital cities. So the more cities we can get out, the more we can take advantage of some of our other traits and things like that. And we want to get those cities up and running as quickly as possible. We have a craft queue empty. We have 6 druid now, actually, and we're running out of feast. Oh, and I don't know when it actually happened on this turn, so perfect. What an excellent time to be sitting in our city menu. So yes, we're going to craft a feast because we definitely need one. Let's just craft a single feast, and then we'll kind of see where we're at. Do we need that feast in 5 turns? So here's the thing. We have 3 turns left on these settlers. That city, obviously they have to walk over there, so they have several turns left to do that. That city will also need a feast as soon as possible, right? So we really need 2 feasts relatively soon. So I think we do want to get these feasts out pretty quickly. I think in 5 turns actually will be plenty. I don't think we need to throw more at it, although we're starting to get grain, so we could actually throw grain at it and make it even faster. Gets it down to 4 turns. I'm not sold on that yet. Let's stockpile grain a little bit. There are lots of uses for that. So we'll stockpile that a little bit, but this will get us 2, so we might as well do 2 because we know we're going to do 2. So in 10 turns, we'll have 2 feasts. That should be plenty of time. In 5 turns, we need 1 here. So actually, that should have been what we were looking at, right? Is in 5 turns, we need another feast here. We're going to get 1 in 5. Actually, I think we want it in 4 because when I think that'll work. I think it'll actually be perfect, right? 5 turns, we put it in. I think we'll get the... Oh, I don't know if we'll get the bonus for it on that turn. You know what? I think we do need to put a grain towards it. I think we need it out in 4 so that it's ready to be slotted in so we don't miss a turn of that growth in food. We're also going to put our jewelry in. That's going to increase our prosperity and happiness. The happiness is a really big deal. So remember, happiness increases your production in your city. So now we are at 85, which puts us at what is the production bonus we have? 50. We have a 50% production bonus, which is pretty dang big, right? We get it all the way up to 75 when we get to 90. The other one to pay attention to is this one right here. If you can work on getting your city health up, you increase your city growth, and that is a big deal. Now, there's not a lot of things you can do early game, which makes sense, to increase city health, but that's something to pay attention to, right? City health impacts your growth. We also can impact our research by knowledge. We can impact our tax income, and we can impact our force strength. I always lax on security, but I think that this is probably an oversight on my part. So you can craft your units wherever you want. The city that you muster them to and that you deploy them out of is the city that it will take their security rating of that city and apply that force strength modifier to them, right? So right now, we actually are sitting at no effect at 41. So there's nothing negative happening right now. But if we were to drop to 31, we'd have a -5 force strength modifier on any units that were deployed out of this city, right? So if you're going to war or planning on building an army, and that is a permanent buff or debuff to that particular army force. And so when you muster an army, you want to muster it out of your highest security city, and you probably want to wait till that city has some level of security to get that permanent force strength modifier on that force. Now, when the big patch comes out later in November, that might change a little bit, because if you can indeed retrain, which is what you can do, right? We know you can upgrade your units. If you can retrain your units and then redeploy them, and it takes on the force modifier of that city again, then you might be able to put something out there that's a little bit less than ideal, and then later on you could just retrain them and put them out again and take the new benefit of whatever security is. I'm hoping that's what's true, right? So anyway, we got our amenity in. That is good. Of course, we have our expert in from Benito Juarez, and we get to expand yet again. So we have grown. We get to expand. We're also keeping an eye on the fact that we're at 3 of 5 housing. We want to be very wary of that. And we know that our plan was, now that we have access to this grain, to go to this 6 territory and claim this to put our granary in, which is going to get us access to not only some city health, which is nice, will also get us access to the grain stores, which are a very powerful amenity that we would like to have access to in the early game. So we're going to granary in this, then we're going to farm every other territory here. That's going to be the best optimal use of our granary in this city. So we will claim this next. Gets us access to 6 different improvements, which is nice. And then obviously we have, we're getting closer to being able to claim those cattle. The cattle will give us access to another resource, which is also important. So that is where we currently sit. I believe that will take us to our next turn. Rope making has been researched. We now have access to build what is potentially our first wonder of the game. And we do have the ability to maybe place that right in our 2-zone territory. We can also build logging camps, which are critical infrastructures. We will not probably be doing that quite yet. We have another couple expansions before we might put in any logging camps, but that may set us back on a timber standpoint. That's going to be interesting. We also have access to rope, which we'll want to start crafting probably pretty quickly here, because rope is highly advantageous to our cities. We now have to choose our next tech. Archery is probably a good one. Archery gets us access to hunting camps. Again, we don't need hunting camps yet, so my line of thinking might actually be to go into herbalism. Herbalism gets you access to the apothecary. The apothecary also gets you that kind of critical early game city health, and also increases your city knowledge. I'm actually not opposed to an early apothecary build, because it not only can you craft stuff from it that is potentially beneficial, but primarily because it actually increases my city's health and knowledge. And there's not a lot of buildings early in the game that will do that for you. That's only +5, but even then, it still gets you kind of pointed in the right direction, which I kind of like. So I think I'm gonna go herbalism here. I think if we had neighbors, or if we had anything to put a hunting camp on, I would go archery here. But I think what we're gonna do is go herbalism, just to have the ability to potentially build an apothecary. We're probably not gonna build one in right away, because we have other things our city is doing. But at least we have the ability to do so. And we have units who are idle. We will collect this. Starting to get an idea of more of our territory. So we got some empty land here, so that's good. Because if we put a city in here, we can put another city in maybe somewhere here. And again, then start to claim up some of these resources here. So we'll keep grabbing those. We're going to move this guy down here. We have no fish or anything in this ocean, which is a little unfortunate. We have 1 fish. We've seen a couple of ocean tiles. We don't have access to a lot of ocean-based resources yet. That's okay. We'll start to see some land as we jump down here on the next turn, so that should be really interesting. Ah, horses. And the end of the territory. So as predicted, as hoped anyway, we do have a lovely little chunk of land down here. This is going to be coastline. I think we already know that. We can't see it, but this is going to be coastline. And that sets us up for a beautiful capital city that will not have any contested land in it. And there's some horses over here, which is actually a pretty big deal, to have horses close at least-ish. I mean, that's going to be a pretty stretched claim for our capital. But our capital will essentially be able to take, like, most of this, I think. If we look at how many territories are there, I think we can kind of, like, this river right here, it stops. But this might make, like, a good... Our capital probably takes, like, most of this. There's a lot of territories in there to claim, but I think the capital can probably grab most of this without putting a second city down on our peninsula. That'll be kind of the goal as we go through the game, so we probably won't go too much further north, and probably I'll keep my claims pretty much south, unless we grab, like, the sheep, right? And then our second city will start with these claims, and we'll probably end up with another city up somewhere near this river up here to start with these claims. Specifically, we might want to get access to this meteorite. Could be useful to us as we kind of go through the game. So there we go. Lithic tools have been crafted. Collected a cache that had wealth in it. That's not bad. It's not a plow, but I'll take it. Our units are idle. We will move up into this territory. There is goat, sheep, and tobacco in this territory. That's a pretty valuable spot. All right, we'll get this hunt done. clear out that wolf. We are going to move down here just so I can see what's in this territory before we shift back up to go clear more wolves. And he's literally just going to path back up and clear more wolves. We have an idle crafter, and we are perfect timing because we actually have the ability to make rope now. And so what I'd like to do is craft some rope. And I'd like to probably craft a couple of rope because I think we have a couple buildings that could use rope coming up. And so let's get started on rope. We don't have any wool or cotton, which is hugely beneficial to the rope making process. I would like to use some wealth to boost this. I'm not going to use more wealth though. You can actually spend a bunch of wealth to get more rope, but I don't think that's going to be worth it. A rope in 4 turns sounds pretty good. We'll go ahead and grab a couple of those to be able to have them to put into our buildings. One of the things that we'll do is we will actually switch the rope out when we go to our great part. The rope can also be put in instead of lithic tools. What you'll notice about the rope is the rope as a supply is plus 50% to craft production. The lithic tools, when you look at them, are plus 25% to craft production. So you get double the benefit if you put rope in instead of lithic tools into that spot. So definitely something to keep in mind as you're playing, that rope is better than lithic tools if there's the ability to replace one with the other. The only building that I know of that does that currently is the Great Hearth, but something to potentially pay attention to as you're going through that. All right, I think we are ready. Rock and roll into our next turn. Predator cleared. More food. 10 health lost to the wolf this time. Unfortunate. All right, we're clearing. We're not seeing. The land is kind of lightening up a little bit from a resource standpoint. So again, I'm sensing a second city and a third city. Then the land kind of opens up a little bit. And again, we'll see where we go after that, right? We have more units idle. This guy's going to go down here just to get this exploration done. And our settler is out and available. We should be able to cross just straight through. I think we can walk through the tribe's land to get over here. But the first thing that we now get to do, and again, I will reiterate this again and again until the change is made, we need the ability to see zones in this game at any time. It is a massive hampering on a strategic game, a strategy game, when I cannot strategize the biggest decisions of the game, where to place cities, where to make my claims. I cannot look at any of that unless I have a city expansion available to me, if it's adjacent to my city, or if I have a settler out that has city cap and I press the settle button, right? There's no other way to view zones in a territory. I have no idea how many zones are in this or this or this until I press this button, and now I can see how many zones are in each of these. I don't understand. It's such a massive oversight that I do not understand how it is not being talked about more. I do understand how it has not been patched into the game yet, and I hope that when we get our big patch in November, that is something that Oxide will add. I think it is the single biggest oversight change that needs to be made right now. Really enjoying the game. That is something that I will harp on over and over again. This needs to get fixed because I don't think that it is smart to have a strategy game where I cannot strategize. I just don't. I don't like it. I can't plan for it, right? Even when I'm in this screen, it does not tell me how many territories, how many zones are in this territory. I have to count them myself. Just have it pop up on this little screen. I don't know. I'm going to keep beating the drum on that. I know you're probably sick of me talking about it. I've talked about it in probably every episode at this point, but I think it's a big deal. All right, there's not like an obvious 6 over here. So I think we're just going to go with our initial thought right here. This lovely 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We come over to this territory. We settle right here. That gets us access immediately in our first one to the goats and the horses. Will get us access to the sheep and the goats on our next claim, as well as some lovely coastal land. And we can move towards the pigs as well. Well, just really nice land. So I think right here is our spot for our city center. And then we have lots of room for some docks and other things along the coastline here. Good access to resources and different things. And obviously there's there's a couple 4 foods around us, which are really nice. This one actually would be really nice for like a granary, potentially, or a water well of some sort, because it's going to have quite a few farms in it, potentially, with all the 4 foods that are there as well. So there's like possibilities for that as well. So let's do that. We can't go through water with settles yet, can we? We're going to turn off the settle function. We like that. Do I want to look anywhere else? While we're while we're thinking about it, since we can't see zones, let's go look over here to maybe plan out our third city. So if we settle here, we don't want our other city to come in until, like, here would be okay. They're kind of close together, but that would be fine. It's not optimal because we're settling. Well, it doesn't matter that we're on the coast. Like, it's fine. We would want to put a dock somewhere, but there's like, here's a dock right here, right? Or a dock could be right here. So we could settle this one. This might be a nice third city settle. Gets us quick access to these, and these. That's actually probably the spot, right? So this spot with the wolf and the tiger, which we'd have to clear. But this is probably a city. This is probably a city spot for us as well. It's not too, it's pretty close actually to this one, but again, there's quite a bit of land in between. I think this is the best territory in this little region right here to be able to settle. Keeps us kind of close to the coastline, gets us access to the resources pretty quick. So that's probably our third city settle there, if we can get out to it without being like hyper contested land, right? So that's probably important. And then what do we got up here? Well, I think our options are probably to be over here with a city. So we have to explore a little more before we make that decision. Okay. I don't believe we can go into the water. So we do need to make sure that we go in this direction to get to this. We want to go to here, right? Oh, no. Don't do that, because that's not, you cannot cross there. Okay, so I'll send them here to start with, because that paths them correctly. The AI, the computer is thinking this is unknown, so we'll just cross here. But we obviously can't cross water yet, so we need to make sure they go this way. This will also uncover this for us, which will be nice. So we'll bring them in, but we'll eventually want to end up here, but they'll be on their way. Right. Ooh, an event!
Decorated package.
All right, so we have our first event with a tribe. You will notice that our options down here, which my face is conveniently in the way of some of, we have the ability to decline their offer. That gets us plus 5% build production in our capital for 20 turns. 5% build production for 20 turns if we decline, but we get -1 relationship with the tribe. We can accept and not read the book, in which case we lose 5 knowledge in all of our cities for 10 turns, but we get +1 relationship with the tribe. Or we can accept and distribute their information about their customs. That gets us -7% production in all cities for 10 turns, but it nets us 15 furs and +1 relationship with the Merida tribe. We don't have furs, but we have a lot of hunts. We're getting a bunch of hunts in our cities right now. Now, both of the last two options get us +1 relationship with the tribe, so it really just depends on, do we want the furs? I don't think we do particularly. I think we're going to end up with plenty of furs from all of our hunts. And I really dislike the idea of -7% production in all cities for 10 turns. I think that's really painful. Now, -5 knowledge in all cities for 10 turns is not great, but it's okay. I've actually, in several of my games, actually, when I've had this event happen, which I don't think you have it happen every time necessarily, I have done the +5 build production in my capital and just taken the hit with the tribe. I don't know if it's the best answer, but 20 turns at +5% build production is really difficult to pass up. I think because our relationship with this tribe is already really good, and if we get it bumped up again, we have the potential of absorbing them and getting that growth even faster in our city. I think that we definitely want to take the +1 relationship. So rather than take a production hit, I'm going to take the knowledge hit. We're going to accept, but we're not going to read the book. That's going to bump us up higher with the Merida tribe. And as soon as we get that, as far as I understand, as soon as we get this all the way up, then there is a chance that they will just join us, right? And what they give us when they join us is variable, but it often is a large population boost to our cities, which is obviously, again, like if you get population, that's huge, right? Population boost is really good. And now our city is ready to build something. We do have access to building our granary right away, and I think that probably needs to be what we do. Obviously, we could go scout. We could run right into settlers again if we want to like really push them out, which is actually not the worst idea in the world. But I do think I want to get a granary out. Again, city health gets us some prestige. It gets us access to... The biggest thing is it gets us access to building these grain stores. These grain stores get us 30 food and 30 city growth. Very big. So I do think I want to get the granary built so that we can get that as an amenity for our cities, because it is the nicest kind of second amenity, right? The jewelry is all right. It gets you happiness, which is a pretty big deal, but city growth is huge. So let's get our granary built. We're going to put it in this territory, surrounded by 1 billion farms. Why are we surrounded by 1 billion farms? Because you'll notice 50% of the region's food yield is applied towards harvest production at each farm within the region. So the more farms that you have surrounding a granary, the better. If you do the math, typically the granary's use is primarily for the city health and for the grain store amenity. The 50% region food yield applied toward harvest production in the farms, even when you have a 6 territory, it's the food outcome is still better if you just place a farm. So the granary really is, hey, I'm going to take up a farm spot to get the city health and to get access to be able to build my grain stores. I am going to boost all the farms in that region. From a food standpoint, it's probably almost always better to put a farm down. But again, we want access to be able to craft the grain stores, and the city health is a nice bonus too. So let's go granary. I'm going to put it right here so that's kind of next to our city. We're going to go right there. I like to go, when I'm doing farms in a territory, I usually save the larger spots for farms. Again, it's purely aesthetic, but it's just something that I will typically do. Okay, I believe we are ready to go to our next turn. There we go. Our settler is off and running. Our granary is being crafted, and we have created a feast that will be able to go into Mexico when it is ready. And we have another cache. So now we have a cache on the far side of the map. That one will sit there for quite some time because our scout is nowhere near that spot. So maybe we get a second scout at some point. We grab that and then head north with it. We'll have to find out how that plays out. That's an unfortunate cache placement. Okay, but we also have the whole, I'm going to call it a peninsula. Technically, this would be a peninsula, right? Because of the little bay here. I feel like it would be. The little spot of land, again, it's a small peninsula that our capital city is sitting on. We have fully uncovered. It's got a lovely mountain in it. It's got a rocky area. I really like kind of the look and feel of it. It could actually be that we're not at the far south of the map. I thought maybe we were at first. Again, it's one of the things I actually really like about Ara. I can't just like scroll around and figure out where I am, you know? I can't. I have no idea based on this positioning where I am in the map. Looking like maybe now I thought we were south of the map, maybe now we're maybe central, something like that. So very intriguing, and we'll have to continue exploring to be able to figure that out, which I think is very nice. Okay, we already know what we're doing with this guy. He is going to come up here. We're just going to send him there. It's going to take him 3 turns to get there. Then we'll hunt that wolf, and then we'll continue around. These guys are on an appropriate path to get where they need to go, so we'll keep them moving. Oh yeah, that cache is there. We collected another cache of 50 wealth. That's kind of a bummer, but wealth will be useful to us. We'll be able to use that. 50 wealth is not bad. Don't get me wrong. 50 wealth is great. I typically I love getting plows or something like that I don't have to craft later on, because those will become challenging to get crafting when you have to craft a bunch of other things all at the same time. Okay, so we have indeed uncovered all of our caches over here, and so now I think we move north. So I'm going to go ahead and keep with a northerly trajectory. Try to cut back across maybe and uncover fog in this direction, just to give us a better idea of what's happening in the immediate vicinity. I do think that we'll get, right now it looks like our third city probably goes over here, so we're going to want to get some exploration here. So it might be that we take like a back and forth, right? End up back over here again with the scout. How long that takes depends on how many caches we find along the way. That will drive our direction. But again, how you explore is really up to you. I'm going to try to clear a little bit of extra just space and information as we go about. Next turn! Tribe met. All right, so we have discovered another tribe. We actually start as unfriendly with them. That doesn't seem correct. Tribes will never be initially hostile toward. Oh, so they can be unfriendly. All right, that's interesting. So we can have tribes be unfriendly towards us. They just can't be in the hostile stage. That trait is seeming to be like less and less important. So, I mean, is it valuable? Yes. How valuable? I'm still debating that. I'm not sure it's a really potent trait in that regard. There's a, like, it's really nice that we started as friendly with these guys, because now we're like very close to assimilating them. But being just not hostile is like if it ensured that you started like at the middle in the friendly status, like that would be pretty potent. I'm not sure about the value there. I don't know. Let me know. Do you think it's super valuable or not? We're going to grab this cash on the next turn with this guy. So I think that's what we'll set him do. We'll move him into the territory. We won't do anything negative over there. We're just going to cut through their land. Feast has been activated. That's why we rushed that feast a little bit. We're actually currently rushing another feast that we probably don't need to rush, but we're getting grains every turn, so it's not a big deal. The nation rankings have changed. We currently sit in second place. Everyone's unknown to us currently. This is where you see where you stand amongst the nations. There is a lot of very potent information that is available to you in this screen. If you want to access this screen at any time, you can click this and then go to standings. Somebody is ahead of us by 7 prestige. You know what? We're pacing. I don't mind at all where we stand. You can see where you rank amongst the other nations. And then, of course, you have the culling that happens down here. And I don't know if anyone noticed this, and I can't remember if I talked about it in the last episode, but I meant to turn off player culling, and I am almost 100% certain that I turned it on. So if we are in the bottom 3, we will get called out of the game. So the pressure is on, you know? We're playing at a relatively low difficulty level. I think we'll be okay, but we'll see as we get into the further acts. We can be called. I've turned that off as I'm learning the game because I want to just get through all the acts and see more of the game. But I accidentally clicked the button incorrectly, I believe, when we set up the game. So, if you are in the bottom 3, at the end of the act, you will be called from the game and your nation falls into ruin and you are no longer part of the game. So that would be where you lose in advance of the game actually ending. So you want to be up in here somewhere. Now, a couple other interesting things that you can check here. The most important of which is this little military strength button right here. So if you are thinking about going to war, or if you want to know what one of your neighbors maybe looks like from a military strength standpoint, you actually can have that information. In fact, you can actually see, even though everyone is unknown, I have a 7 military strength, because I just have a spearman, right? The scouts don't count, because they're not a military unit, right? I believe they actually don't give you anything towards military score. Someone has a lower score than me, so maybe scouts do count, because how would you have lower than a spearman? So maybe scouts do count a little bit towards this. And then we have people that are up at 45 already in military score. So if one of our neighbors is one of these people, then we may also want to bump ourselves up on this particular score and build more military units. So you kind of see where you stand for all of the different things. It's kind of a nice little feature. Is it possibly providing you with too much information? Maybe a little bit too much information, possibly. I think that could maybe be adjusted. Like the ability to be able to look up the military strength of anybody in the game, regardless of your diplomatic status or what you know about them or whether you're at war with them or not. I mean, you find this in other 4X games too, right? Where you can know the military score of your opponent. Like you don't know their armies, you just know their military score. That's basically what this is. I don't know. There's more there. You could add a little bit of espionage to the game if you don't have this information. You have to go find. I think a lot of people probably like to have this information, so I'm not arguing for or against it. Just that from a realism standpoint, it could be tweaked possibly, right? Again, you can find out a lot of different things here. Most population, so we can see where we rank in population standings right now. Somebody's growing very, very quickly. Lots of people in this place. Probably they have their second city out and different things like that, right? So lots of interesting information here, including obviously prestige. You can check all of your statistics, prestige over time, or any of those things. And you can also look at what prestige you have gained. And this is where you can start to see there is so many ways to earn prestige in a game of Ara History Untold. You can earn prestige through military, you can earn prestige through commerce, through government, through religion, through culture, through science, through industry, and through impact. So many different possibilities, and even as you open up each of these, you can see that there are different pieces of the puzzle within each one. And so if you're looking to earn more prestige, get out of that bottom 3, this is where you would go to see like, well, what do I need to do? Well, under industry, if I build more improvements that have prestige attached to them, I can get more of that. Under religion, if I have more religions converted to my city, I can religion converted. So if I convert more cities to my religion, then I'm going to get some prestige from it, right? So these are where you get all of your prestiges from. And over the course of the game, it tracks where each of your sources of prestige that you have gotten come from, so you kind of see where you're kind of focused right now, right? So obviously, industry and government is kind of where we are focused. That's all we really have access to right now, right? So lots of good information in that screen. Again, you just click on your leader portrait up in the top corner to get access to that. We have another event. So we can attend with a gift of food and drink, minus 50 food, plus 2 relationship from the tribe, and 10 prestige. Anything that says prestige, you can't see it, but it's right behind my head. Anything that says prestige is fantastic, and I like prestige. That is the win condition for the game, so I don't mind that at all. We can bless the young couple with wealth, minus 25 wealth only. We only get 1 relationship with the tribe, and we still get the 10 prestige, or we can ignore their pointless frivolities. And we get minus 1 relationship with the tribe, but we gain 50 wealth and 50 food. 50 wealth and 50 food are not super valuable to me at this point. I'm going to take a look really quick. We have 140 food. We're getting 7 food per turn. We have 341 wealth. We have 7 wealth per turn. 50 food is a substantial amount. It would actually keep us from making a settler with our next build if we were to give them 50 food potentially. However, plus 2 relationship with the tribe is very, very valuable. And we are gaining food. We're also building a granary and plan to build more farms. I think food is not going to be a problem for us. So, whereas we have a lot of wealth to give away, we could definitely easily do this with the wealth. I think I want the plus 2 relationship with the tribe, and I do think that we can give up the food. And actually, again, there we go. You can see it. I actually didn't need to do that. So, nice little tooltip thing that's available to you. It actually tells me that it requires, I have 140 food, and it would require 50 of it, right? So I can actually check that right here. I have 341 wealth. I can check how much wealth I have, and those sorts of things. So you can get a little bit of that information right here in the event screen. I wanted to know my per turn number as well, so I just, backed out and then checked it. But you can get a little bit of that information right here in that screen as well. That's a nice tool tip. I need more information than that to make a proper decision, but I think it's nice that it's there anyway. All right, so we're going to give the gift of food. It's going to cost us 50 food. We get double relationship. So that puts like all the way up to friendly, right? So big swing from unfriendly to friendly. So that's pretty nice. All right, next turn. Herbalism has been researched. We're not going to do much with that right now, but it's there for us if we need it. We can make wine if we get our farm up on our grapes, but we're not going to claim the grapes yet, so it's not actually that important. Ceramic shop could be nice. I think we're going to end up researching all of these. I talked a little bit about you don't have to research everything before you choose bronze working. We only need to research 1 more tech before we do that. We're going to end up researching everything because the one thing that I will typically skip in this era is fermenting. You can get access to it again in the Iron Age. We actually have grapes, so we actually want access to it earlier. So from a tech standpoint, we'll be researching all of these things. I think I'll just take archery next because I think it's probably like the next best thing. At least we have the ability to craft archers if we need them. And our second city actually will need, no, actually I think these are all farms, right? All these are farms, so we actually still don't need the hunting camp at all. We don't have any, well, there's furs somewhere, but we're not like within range of them. So we're going to go archery first. I don't think we're in any rush for any of those at this point. We're just kind of researching everything. We have 1 rope. So now that we have a rope, we're going to take that rope and we're going to put it in over here and get that 50% bonus. So we have that lithic tool that we had there is now another excess lithic tool that we have. So that's always nice. So again, we'll increase our production by by 25%. It was at 25%. We're increasing it to 50, right? We have that going for us now. We're building more rope as well. If we want to build Stonehenge, we actually need 10 rope, I believe. So we'll be crafting rope and lithic tools for quite some time out of that first workshop. You can start to see, again, maybe some of the reasoning behind my madness of putting in a workshop as my first build. Rope, lithic tools, baskets, plows, all of these things become very important to boosting your buildings and to building your triumphs. And so it might not be the best move, but I think it's a viable play. I'm at an advantage crafting wise now, right? I can craft. I've been crafting things much longer than everybody else because I went with a workshop first. Did I miss out on other things? Yes, but such is the nature of a 4X strategy game, right? Okay, we have an idle unit. We're just gonna collect this really quick. Okay, the sign is there, and then we'll hit the next turn button. 15 timber, that's it? Actually, that's not bad. We are only collecting 2 timber per turn. which actually is a really solid reason to potentially go and build a lumber mill, because our two lumber per turn is going to run us into trouble at some point. We only have 94 total right now, so that's a little tricky. We got a feast crafted, so that feast is all ready for our second city settle when it happens. 15 timber actually ended up doing some good for us, which I would not normally say, but I think that was actually quite important. And I'm just going to keep cutting up this way. We're going to move that direction. We have another idle unit. He's up here ready to hunt. Go ahead and clear these wolves. And our settler reached this territory. We are going to settle here, so we'll move over there. We have a crafter that is idle, and we have 5 of these. I mean, let's get cranking on more feasts. I think I'll pull the grain out for now. And then let's do like 2 more feasts before we maybe think about possibly switching things up a little bit here. So that, I think that's kind of my plan. We'll grab a couple feasts. We got that bonus, right? That with this 50% now, it only takes the 4 turns anyway. So kind of cruising in that regard. We go to our next turn. Granary is being built. Our predators have been cleared. And our spearman has leveled up. Okay, so this is new news to me. And this is probably like other people probably knew this a long time ago. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Our spearman just got promoted, which is really nice. So that increases, I believe, his base strength value. I'm not actually sure what a promotion does for you. I'm assuming it is an increase to base strength value, but I don't know that for a fact. So maybe someone could fill in exactly what a promotion does for me. That'd be nice. But I assume that it just increases their attack by a little bit, their force strength. Okay, we're sitting, you know what? We got enough to clear more wolves, so we're just let's go head up to this territory. We'll swing around, we'll get to that wolf, and we'll get some more clears done with the spearman. He lost 10 health again on that one. Unfortunate. All right, we cleared some more land. Again, I'm going to keep cutting north, so we're going to go this way. And we'll continue doing that. We have 1 more idle unit, and we can choose our city. This will probably end up being our last turn, potentially, here as we get our city in. So let's do that. Let us settle. We have our nice 5 spot here. I'm going to put the gathering hall maybe down here. Again, it's all aesthetic at this point. I think here kind of puts it in kind of a nice centralized portion. I mean, everything is centralized, but save some of the bigger ones for other more cooler looking things, potentially. But we'll go ahead and settle right here. It's good rating. Distance to capital 3, distance to sea 2. Ally and enemy we don't know of. We got good yields. Again, the game will tell you it's good to have resources in your city center. I disagree. I think that that's bad. So I love the fact that it says no resources. So we will settle in this spot. That will happen on the next turn. And so we actually have 1 more turn to be able to play. Beautiful. So now we have our city. Wow. This is a wonderful city name that I will have to pronounce. Nezahualcotl. It's actually maybe simple. Nezahualcotl. That's going to be a tough one for me. Neza, for short, has been formed, and we are off and running. That gets us a prestige, which is nice. We got another rope crafted. We have a cache that takes us a little bit out of the way to go and grab, but of course, we're going to go after caches. We have still not met a neighbor, which to me is fantastic. Some of you who want to go and do some war stuff, maybe not as fantastic. Our granary is complete as well, and so we now have the ability to throw in some different things here. We actually have some ceramic pots already. We must have gotten from a cache, I think, of some sort. So we are definitely going to put the pots in there. That is going to do 50% craft production, which is a huge deal right away. We also have rope left over, so we can get rope into our granary right away. That is going to increase by 50% again, so we're now at 100% craft production already. And as soon as we get access to the wheel, we can actually make that even better at our granary. And so we'll start crafting our grain stores. And you see right away, right there, grain stores, 30 food and 30 city growth. We are only producing 8 food per turn right now. 30 food in our city is a massive number of food, and 30 city growth is a massive amount of city growth as well. So grain stores are very, very good. Now, it's also helpful if you have some grain to be able to accelerate these with. So you'll notice that we need grain to accelerate, or it costs 8 wealth. Well, we don't even have 8 wealth per turn to put into this, but we definitely want to put the grain into it. That will get us a grain store in 4 turns, which is hugely beneficial. We actually might want to think about, we have extra ceramic pots as well. I think we got the pots out of an event, I believe, right? So we could put 5 wealth towards it, or we could put a pot towards it. The pots are going to run out really quickly if we do it this way. I'd rather not put the pot to it. How much does it get us to do this? It doesn't even actually increase it by that much. I'm going to leave it empty. We're going to take the 150 production towards it. I'm not going to put the 50. And we're just going to set this to endless. There's nothing else that the granary can craft at this current time. And so we will just start crafting grain stores at a rapid pace. And we'll start putting them into our cities as quickly as we can as well. You'll notice we can put an expert here too if we want to, right? So we got to keep an eye on experts earlier than we would because we have an expert. So our granary is in, and that means we have the ability to build things in our capital city again as well. Gathering hall is complete in our other city. We have a new event. So on your second city, you get a fun event, this cornerstone event, and you kind of choose this based on how you kind of want your city to go. You can get plus 15 security for 100 turns. Can only last 100 turns. 100 turns is quite a while. But you get plus 15 city happiness for 100 turns. You get plus 15 city knowledge for 100 turns. Each of these is very powerful in their own way. This plus 15 city security is really great, right? If you're going to train forces out of that city, if you're going to deploy your forces from there, that gets you, it immediately gets you a bonus to that force production. Huge. Probably at higher difficulty levels, this is probably the one to pick most of the time, based on what I have been told and what I've heard in the comments of these videos already. So this is one to consider in that circumstance. If you're falling behind on knowledge, if you feel like you need more of the research per turn, city knowledge is obviously good. I am really big on city happiness because it increases my production. I am going to choose honor, but I do think there's viability to each of these based on the scenario you find yourself in. We will take honor in Neza, and then we will move on from there. Our craft queue is empty over here. I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple more rope, actually. Let's go like 2 more rope because we just used some of our rope. So let's grab a couple of rope. I don't think we need baskets yet, although we should probably start crafting a dwelling here in the next little bit. We also have another craft queue empty over here. I'm going to start on a feast. I think feasts are going to be our bread and butter for a little while. Let's go 1 feast. We'll put the food into it. We're running out of food and we're running out of wealth. I'm going to put the food into it. I don't love doing that, but that gets us a feast in 9 turns. I'm not going to put anything else towards it because, I mean, we could put, like, grain towards it, I believe, over here. But I don't want to burn all my grain either. 9 turns is fine for this feast. I don't mind it so much. Oh, and we, of course, want to put our amenity in. We're going to start with the feast. We're going to throw a feast in right away for that growth. And that will do what we need to do. And, oh, we also have, we have our expert, which, again, excellent use of we're going to put it into, we only have one place to put it, right? So our expert goes into our gathering hall. It doesn't get us the plus 5. The gathering hall functions differently than the Great Hearth. The Great Hearth is only in your capital city, so we're not getting that plus 5 gold that we got in the Great Hearth. Not quite as valuable, but it's gonna, right, we just carved a whole turn off of our feast production, which is nice. For our city center, in our second city, I only do one thing right now, and that is dwellings to open. The reason is because I want to save all my builds here for buildings that benefit from being in the city center. The dwelling is one of those things, and I want to put a farm in, but I want to put a farm in when I expand. And so, yeah, I could potentially like do a scout from here or something like that, or settlers if I had the food, or a spearman if I needed an army, and you could do that, certainly to lead into it. I'm just going to go with the dwelling right away. Why not just get it out there? We're going to need the growth anyway. It also gets us city production. So we'll put the dwelling in right away. We'll just slap that right next to it over here, and we'll start the dwelling production process in the city. That actually went down to 13 turns when all the bonuses were applied, so that's pretty nice. Here in our city of Mexico, we have a decision to make about what our next build will be, and I think what I am going to do is actually hold on that decision until the start of our next episode. So this will conclude this episode of our Let's Play Ara History Untold series. We'll pick up again next week by making decisions about what we build in our capital. Now that we have our granary down, are we going into settler? Are we going into dwelling? Are we going into another scout? What is the play? We will discuss and debate during our next episode. If you like the content, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and that you're subscribed to the channel. We'd love to have you back. Turn those notifications on so you know when we release these videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.